Hi there guys, Aarava here and bringing you GP in 60 seconds for the German Grand Prix of the F1 2014 season. This is the series where we try to describe the GP in 60 seconds, although as of late I've been failing quite hard. I mean, these races just get more and more exciting. This one was an absolute cracker. I thought last race was a really good one at Silverstone with Alonso and Vettel fighting it out, but again, this race was really good. We had so many battles and it's going to be difficult to talk about it in 60 seconds, but we're going to try it. But obviously, if you didn't know, in qualifying, Lewis Hamilton crashed out, so he had to start in 20th place after what was a gearbox change. So Nico Rosberg was on pole, seemingly looking like he didn't have any sort of fight to deal with, and we had the likes of Magnussen in 4th place, both Williams 2nd and 3rd. So that's what happened in qualifying, but let's get on to the race. In 60 seconds, we're going to start now. So on lap 1 immediately, Massa did a flip in the air as him and Magnussen came together on the first turn, so Massa out of the Grand Prix, very unlucky for him. But then as the race got on, Rosberg was seemingly nowhere, and he took the win of the Grand Prix. Literally wasn't on the FOM feed at all. But meanwhile back, Ricciardo was brought back down to 15th place as he had to go round the flipping Massa on turn 1. So him and Hamilton were basically next to each other, making their way through the field by lap 3. And they made their way through the field eventually, with Ricciardo coming home in 6th place, Hamilton coming home in 3rd. Couldn't get 2nd because at the end of the race, he was on very old option tyres, and Bottas was also on old tyres. But Bottas just managed to hang it through. But throughout the whole race, we had Alonso, Vettel, Ricciardo, Button, Hamilton, Kimi, all scrapping so much. Some brilliant overtakes, some brilliant fighting, as it was 2v3 stops for some, and then most of them converted to a 3-stop. Brilliant stuff as people were on options and primes. Brilliant stuff to watch, and that was a brilliant German Grand Prix. That's the end of 60 seconds. I really did not capture that race at all, so I'm going to continue on as it has been the last few races. I've thrown the rule books out the window for GP in 60 seconds. So yeah, it was really interesting. We had Ricciardo and Hamilton having to fight their way through. It was interesting because Hamilton quickly got himself up behind Ricciardo, but then seemingly because Ricciardo's in a Red Bull, it was a bit harder to overtake him, and they both kind of made their way through. Eventually, Hamilton got him and then started pressing on. Then Ricciardo made an early stop because Hamilton started on the prime tyre, so Ricciardo was on the option, so he pit a lot earlier than Hamilton. Hamilton went long to lap about 25, I think it was, on the prime tyres, and he was making trying to make a 2-stop work. Eventually converted to a 3-stop and did 2 option tyres at the very end. At the end, though, he just couldn't catch Bottas. His front left was really graining. Bottas was on really old tyres, but Bottas was getting great traction out of turn 2 onto the DRS straight, and Hamilton just couldn't catch him. But Rosberg was seemingly nowhere. He just dominated the whole thing and was in 1st place, and now he gets a really good, comfortable 10 points ahead of Hamilton for a 14-point gap in the championship. But, you know, some brilliant fighting between Vettel and Alonso at the beginning of the Grand Prix. Vettel, and Kimi were both fighting. They kind of pincered Kimi, and Kimi actually lost a bit of his front wing in some moves. There was some great action with Hamilton making some bold moves down the inside of the hairpin. One time, though, it didn't work. He tried to make a move on Jenson Button, just didn't work. I think he just misjudged it because it looks like Button was hanging around to give him some space, but then Button kind of turned in and took the corner. Hamilton just misjudged. He lost a bit of his front wing, so that affected him. So I think if Hamilton was a bit more, just didn't make that stupid error there and didn't lose a bit of his front wing, he could have easily got 2nd, actually, because the pace would have been better with his whole front wing on. But some great scraps with Alonso and Ricciardo as well. Ricciardo really showing how good of a driver he is, managed to try and fight against Alonso. Eventually, Ricciardo's tyres gave up, so he was in 6th place, but it was still a great showing for Ricciardo, who in the early stages was looking better than Vettel and was really working well, and I think he's going to be a good talent in the future. There's also some great scraps between Ricciardo and Hockenheim, Alonso and Hockenheim, Perez and some Lotuses. In fact, Lotuses were getting in the action. Magnussen did well to get back to 9th place after being what was about last place after turn 1, after getting hit with Massa racing incident there. But yeah, and Jenson Button disappointingly in 8th place. Mclaren strategy tyres on the tyres one that didn't work out too well. Vettel did a good showing. Vettel seemingly didn't have quite enough kind of pace, and also halfway through he had to try and save some fuel. A bit of a weird moment where he was asking his engineer, do you want me to push and overtake or save fuel? Tell me what you want. So that was a bit interesting. Perez in 10th place, so he after the start, it looked like he was just going about his business, and then eventually his he had to save a bit of fuel. His engineer saying that I'm going to tell you the last time that you need to save some fuel. So seemingly Perez maybe couldn't perform to his max because of some fuel saving needed. Kimi Raikkonen in 11th place again, scoring no points for Ferrari, showing a disappointing form for Kimi Raikkonen. Really just amping up the pressure on Kimi Raikkonen if he will retire at the end of this season, even by Ferrari buying out his contract maybe, or just, you know, definitely ending his F1 career after his Ferrari contract ends. But yeah, Rosberg wins again, and 10 points ahead in the 10 points ahead of Hamilton in this race for a 14-point gap, and that's really good to see in terms of for him and his whole camp. He'll be revving up for the next Grand Prix, which will be Hungary, though. I do think Hamilton will be really feisty for Hungary. It's a really favourite circuit for him, and I think Hamilton's going to take the win for Hungary. But we'll leave that to Let's Talk Hungary on Friday. You know the deal with the predictions and stuff. But that was a thoroughly enjoyable race. I hope I did it some justice, but really got to go back and watch some highlights. There was some great action. The ones you want to watch are Vettel, Alonso, Ricciardo, Button, Hülkenberg, Magnussen, and Raikkonen. Not actually Magnussen, sorry, just Raikkonen. Those 5 really scrapping it out in the first 20 laps of the Grand Prix. Really great stuff. And Hamilton, of course, how could I forget him? Great stuff as well. Really great scrap and, you know, great drive. But driver of the day for me has got to be Ricciardo, simply because of the moves he was pulling. He may have finished behind Alonso and Vettel, but he was pulling some great moves. And let's not forget, he was down to 15th place at the beginning of the Grand Prix because of having to move around Massa. So I think driver of the day for me has to be Ricciardo. I would have been Hamilton for me, but because he didn't get second place, I think he could have been a lot more clever with the Button incident and saving his tyres. If he'd done that and got second place, then he would have been driver of the day. But Ricciardo, for me, was just pulling some absolute great moves. He pulled an absolute worldly move on Jenson Button down to T8 on the inside of turn 8 to the left-hander, sharp left-hander. It was really surreal for me because obviously I'm a Jenson Button fan, but I really like Ricciardo, and I'm definitely, once Jenson Button retires at some point, I'm going to be supporting Ricciardo. So it's kind of weird to see the new guy that I'll be supporting overtaking the older guy that I'm still supporting. So it was a bit of a weird thing, transition, and, you know, obviously not a great position for Button or McLaren, really. Disappointing for Lotus. You know, Grosjean and Maldonado were actually racing quite a few Saubers and Toro Rossos, but then Grosjean had to retire, and also Kvyat had a fire. He was going really well, but then I believe his engine kind of caught a light. I think it might have been the battery pack that caught a light, but that was quickly extinguished. But yeah, that has been GP in 60 seconds. I know, again, I've completely failed. I did do it in 60 seconds, but didn't do much justice, so as usual, I've rambled on afterwards. I don't think any of you guys mind anyway. I think, you know, after watching these races, it's quite difficult to do it in 60 seconds, especially when all the races have been quite exciting. This has been a great 2014 season so far in terms of all the midfield battles. You know, the Mercedes battle has been good, but I think the midfield battles between Vettel, Alonso, Ricciardo, and the likes of those people have been even better for the sport. But yeah, if you guys did enjoy this video, give it a like. If you enjoyed the race, then comment below what you thought about it. What were your moves of the day? Who was your driver of the day? What do you think about the drives of Ricciardo, Alonso, Vettel, Hamilton, Bottas indeed in second place, doing a great job to get his 3rd podium of the season. So comment all that good stuff below. Subscribe if you're new for weekly F1 content. I also do this GP in 60 seconds for every single race of the season. I also do a Let's Talk after FP2 on a Friday before the Grand Prix weekend, talking about aerodynamic analysis and giving my predictions. So subscribe for all of that good stuff. I've been aarava. Hope you enjoyed that race. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you guys next time.